thank you very much for having me.
Don't thank me yet.
You have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, I just saw your character expired.
Because it's in a TV.
Do you have a single fact to back that up?
You know, this is the one where,
Think you're funny?
you understand me?
I think you need to go get a dictionary.
Just now I was trying to think when we did our last podcast. It feels like it was only a few days ago.
Yeah, it was a couple days ago.
Yeah, that was like 2/3 Mortal Kombat rant, and then we talked a little bit about Mass Effect that you had just started playing, which, by the way, have you gotten any further or have you quit?
Nope. No, I have not. I haven't quit by any sense of that
Okay.
word. I just haven't gotten to play it again. I will say my playing time will probably pick up a lot
That's good.
when school starts back up.
Makes sense.
No,
Instead of me replaying it, I could just come in there and sit there on the couch for a while and just watch you play it and just be like, those were the days.
you'd be like, no, don't do that. No, this is what you do. No, don't do that again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how I would react. It would probably be a lot of nostalgia mixed with like, oh my God, this looks so weird
Oh, it's really odd.
compared to,
Whatever you have in your head, I'm promising you is not what it looks like.
probably
That's what I
not.
would promise.
But isn't it cool when you look back on things, but you visualize them as if they were with up to today's standards?
Oh yeah.
And then when you
100%.
actually see it again and it's been 5 years, 10 years, maybe longer,
I saw.
you're just like
Yeah,
completely taken back by it.
I saw a meme earlier today, I think it was, and it was like, 1990 something, and it was these. I want to say it was like football, like the old Madden games, and it was just like underneath it, it was like, how can graphics get any better than this?
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like today, and then it shows like Madden now, and people are like, these graphics are awful.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, it just looked like 8-bit characters just running up and down the field.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just boxy nonsense.
Yeah, it looked more like Space Invaders
Right.
than like a football game. Yeah, I remember those like N64 cartridges with Madden on there, holding the football, smirking.
Yeah.
You'd always like see those in retro game stores on the shelf or in like the retro section. This N64 Madden game from 96, 97 is like $1.99.
Right. There. You bring up N64. I meant to ask you a question, not podcast related, but do you know what an expansion pack is?
Yeah.
What is that for the N64? What does it do?
So on the top of the console between
It's
the
that little space.
between the power button and reset button, you take that out and you replace it with another part that I think I don't actually have one, but I think it sticks out the top and it's got like this red vent look to it.
Yeah.
And certain games required that.
Interesting.
I thought Donkey Kong was one, but I was just having a discussion with somebody and they told me that it wasn't. So that was like a huge game. Majora's Mask, you needed an expansion pack.
That makes sense.
Perfect Dark, you needed it. I don't know what else, but there were some bigger games they were trying to crank out, and you needed that thing
because
for it.
I looked them up online really briefly, and they're a little expensive now for obvious reasons because they don't make them anymore. But you can buy some like off-brand versions of them that people say work really well.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like a teaser, I guess. We'll have to do a birthday episode for you so I can give you this. But I think I found on accident a birthday present to get you.
Oh boy.
And it is a N64 game that should not exist, but it does. But it needs an expansion pack. So that's why I'm asking about it.
Oh.
Would you know what I'm talking about by any chance?
You mean what game you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, good.
Maybe the Blockbuster demo version of GoldenEye?
No.
Okay.
What is the demo version of GoldenEye?
But so before the game went like wide release,
Oh,
this was
okay.
like a what you call it, prototype
Right.
kind of partway there thing,
Right.
which is kind of cool because in like the manual or on the back of the box, you could see pictures or gameplay from the game, and it wasn't the way the game turned out in like a few of the pictures. So that must have been from like
So it's like the beta
Yep.
version of the game.
Yeah, and it says like on the N64 cartridge, not for resale
Right.
or something like that. And I remember coming across one once in a game store when I think it was when Jason, Tyler, and me, we went to Tennessee, and we were stopping in all these retro game stores, and there was a copy of GoldenEye for the N64 just like encased, like shrined up, like
Yeah.
don't touch this or somebody at the store is gonna tackle you.
We'll find you.
Yeah, and it was $300, and I had already bought a really stupid fucking cowboy outfit while I was in Nashville, and I was not about to spend another $300 on a
Let's
video
talk
game.
about that for a second. Because I've seen pictures.
GoldenEye or Nashville,
No, just the cowboy outfit.
right? Okay,
That is that is what I would call probably like one of your funniest weaknesses, I think. It's like
dressing up like a cowboy.
no. It's like that moment when you're like, well, when in Rome.
Hey man, when you're in the atmosphere of Nashville and all you're hearing is just countryness,
You just want to be a cowboy. That's
you just want to like, it would be like if you went back to the times when there were Native American tribes just all over the entire West or something before
that's Nashville.
before the Europeans came over, and they like, you've come across some nice ones and they're like, you want to join our tribe? You wouldn't stay dressed like that. You would want to wear the Indian stuff. So it's
I would succumb to the Indian outfits pretty quickly.
right. So when you're in Nashville, you just kind of get taken over, I
Is that
guess.
what happens?
It made me spend $300.
Oh my goodness.
I bought a belt with a bull on it. These
Do
jeans.
you have any of this stuff anymore?
Oh, God, I hope not. No, I think I sold or at least I tried to sell some of this shit at a yard sale.
Yeah.
Hopefully I got rid of it and made some money from it, but I don't know. I haven't seen the crap in a while. But even if I have it, like, whatever, it can be a prop.
Yeah.
But the jeans were like a shitload of money. They were like $50. The belt was a lot of money. The shirt, I actually thought the shirt was like looked cool.
Right.
And yeah, I bought the fucking hat, and I did not buy the boots. I stopped there.
Boots can be
Thank
wicked
God.
expensive.
Yeah, well, that's where I drew the line because I had already bought all the other stuff, and then it's like,
I've heard people talk
to
about
the
actual
boots.
cowboy boots before, and it's
yeah, I went
it's
to the
an
store
investment.
there in Nashville, and I couldn't find a pair that wasn't under like $200.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck this.
Well,
This
that's
cowboy-
because
this cowboy mode
they're
is
supposed to
stopping
last
now.
forever. That's why
Yeah.
you only buy them once, a lifetime, or
Yeah.
a couple times a lifetime.
Right. Yep. So I haven't worn that outfit since, or no, I think I went on a date in it to Texas Roadhouse, and I wanted some reason to wear it again.
And that was it.
I wore the shirt.
You're
It
like,
didn't
well, I
stick
can't go
around.
back to Nashville
No.
when I'm not going to Texas. So
Yeah.
what's the next
It
big
didn't
thing?
stick around. The best part of going
Texas
to
Roadhouse.
Nashville was the retro video game stores.
Right.
And that was awesome. I loved that. There were so many of them. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
That was what was cool to me about it.
That's like the new hip town. Or, well, it's been that way for a really long time. But
It felt pretty hip while I was there.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember the Ubers were up there. They were like,
What, expensive, you mean?
it was like $180 to get a ride like 15 minutes back.
Wow.
It's crazy. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense, I guess. That's expensive.
It was up there.
My lord.
Yep. It's definitely up there.
Hmm.
So might have been the most expensive Uber ride. I think we did take it. We didn't have a choice. So yeah, we had to take it. We split it.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't really have a choice, so you can't walk everywhere.
No, I mean, it was either sleep in downtown or go back to a warm bed and
Right.
$60 to sleep in a warm bed or stay on the sidewalk.
You staying on the sidewalk would have been the best ending of that story. So I spent $300
No, I
on a
didn't.
cowboy outfit, and then I decided, you know what, these newspapers looked okay.
I didn't want to scuff up my get up, you know.
Wait, what shoes were you wearing?
Globes.
Wow, what a look, man.
I could have ridden a skateboard if I
Yeah,
had
you
one.
could have. That's very interesting.
Yep. And that's what I remember about Nashville.
That's awesome.
I think that's also where I watched for the first time. Did you see It Follows?
No.
Oh, I think that's where the first time where I saw that movie. It had a pretty cool like premise to it. It was about
Who's in that, or what is it? What is it about?
it's just a bunch of kids I've never seen before.
Oh, good.
It's about this thing that it takes the shape of a person, but it could look like anybody.
Sure.
And it's always walking towards you. Like, let's say you're the person that has the curse, let's call it.
Okay.
If you have this curse, this entity in the form of some kind of human being will always be walking towards you.
Okay.
And if it gets to you, it'll kill you.
All right.
If it kills you, the next person it's going to start following is the last person you had sex with. If it kills them,
Wait a second. Can we bet? Okay, so it's always coming at you.
it's always walking towards you, and it could look like anybody, but it's always a person. So, like right now, if you had the curse,
Right.
Kim
And
could
where do you
walk.
get the curse from?
It's sexually transmitted.
Okay.
So, someone that had the curse had sex with you.
Sure.
Now you have the curse.
Okay.
So it's following you. The only way you can get rid of the
Is to have
curse,
sex with someone else.
then it goes to them. But if they die, then it comes back to you. So you just have to hope that they keep spreading it to the next person, so you get further and further down the pecking order.
And you say that you enjoyed that movie?
It's a cool premise, and I liked the setup of it was the best part. And because there's this dude who already has the curse, and he has to, and he goes on a date with this girl, and he really pretends to like her, and they go to the movie theater together. But before the movie starts, he looks over his shoulder, and he's just like, "Hey, you just want to like get out of here?" And she's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's just go. Let's go." It's like grabs her, picks her up, and leaves because he can see it coming, but no one else can see it. I forgot to mention that part. It's invisible to everyone else. Only the person that has the curse can see it. So he
But it
gets her.
takes the form of a human.
Yeah, it can look like anyone. It can
So
look
how
like a
does he
pretty
know-
girl. It can look like an old man.
Well, how does he know that no one else sees it?
Because he was playing a game with her of like point at this person and guess what they do for a living or some I
Okay.
don't fucking know, but they were like pointing at people.
But what was he doing that because that was his way of finding out who she couldn't see?
Yeah, he was like, you see that girl in the yellow dress or something over there, and she's like, where?
Right.
And he's like, right here. And she's like, I don't see him. And then he knew that it was the thing that had been following him, and he thought he was further away from it because it's always walking.
Right.
It's never running. So he pretends to like this girl just so he
to
can
get-
have sex with her, then explain to her what's going on. He ties her up in a parking garage and has it walking towards her and is like, this is what's going on. This is why this is happening. This is why this thing's coming at you right now. And
Wait,
then,
so if the curse transfers, he can still see it?
so
Or he
yes,
can't see it?
anyone who's ever had the curse can see the entity.
then?
So
All
there's
I'm
some-
going to say
there's some
is this
rules.
is starting to sound a little convenient for the story, but okay.
Sure, but whatever. It plays well, at least like in that part. That's part of the curse.
Okay.
So
I'm on board
if you've
to a
had the
certain extent,
curse,
I guess.
you have the visual sense open to see it, whatever it is
Gotcha.
that follows people. So he pretends to have pretends to have sex. He does have sex with her.
Go ahead and explain that,
But
please.
the guy then after he has sex with her, he like knocks her out, like gags her with alcohol or whatever, the cloth alcohol
Right.
thing, and knocks her out. And then she wakes up tied to this chair.
Can you scoot your chair over just a little? You're bumping the thingy.
Oh, that's what that noise was.
Yeah.
She wakes up tied to this chair, and the thing is walking at her.
And she has no idea what's going on.
She just wakes up to this, and he has to explain all of this shit to her as he's like pulling the wheelchair that she's tied in backwards as it's
Right.
like walking to her. It was like really creepy, is
So-
the way that was all done. The rest of the movie, it's
So what's creepy about this thing? It's just a person that's gonna kill.
yeah, like it'll fuck you up if it gets you. Like it
So is
opens
it
with
like
a girl
a-
getting caught by it, and it like fucks her up. You
So
don't
is it
see
like a
but
person that's just like
it doesn't speak. It just like gets
it's just it's just walking? Is it like dilapidated, or if that's the right word, or is it like like
just expressionless.
just stare like
Yeah, just expressionless.
okay?
It's
Interesting.
just kind of weird because it always looks like a person, and they're always like whoever has the curse. It's just kind of weird when they discover who it is that's coming at them, and they just see him coming from far away.
And they don't change. It's just like if it was like a small man in a suit, it's always that until it kills them.
No,
Oh,
that
dear
person
God.
could run away and go to a different room, and then it walks in as a different person. You just never know who it's going to look like.
They wrote the shit out of this. My goodness. They wrote it so well. Some might say that there's no way out.
Well, I thought it was cool. Like I thought at least the
No, I
setup was
think-
cool, and the way they like
I'm
did
just
the first like third of the movie.
Obviously,
I thought
I'm-
was pretty cool.
picking a little bit, but what is the point to the
That's
killings?
the
It's
problem.
just,
Is
like nothing? You don't find out, obviously.
I don't think it really has an overall point other than like this is just something we came up with, and this is how it plays out.
Right.
And the way they
This
introduce it, it's really interesting.
You know where they should play this at? Churches. This is the biggest advocate for sex. No sex before
I think
marriage.
that's kind of what I don't know if that was the intent. I guess I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth because I don't fucking
It
know.
sounds a little bit like that.
But-
Pull that back up just a little.
Yeah. So this curse gets transmitted by sexually transmittedness. So if somebody has sex with somebody,
Right.
then well, bam.
This is like a
You got
weird
the
ad
curse.
for STD.
But isn't that like a crazy setup? Then like, oh, now you have the curse, and it's like you could just get in your car and drive 3,000 miles to the other side of the country, stay there for however
But
long.
they would still show up.
eventually, but they're always walking. So you would have to figure that out. Google Maps.
Is there like an actual
walk.
time? Like you could actually mathematically be like, all right, it took them 2 hours to get from this point to that point. So if I traveled all the time, I could
Yeah.
literally just stay alive.
That's the interesting part that makes me think about it is like figuring out the logistics of where can we go to that we can survive off of, but also always be 20 steps ahead of this thing. But it doesn't really explore that too much. It's
Right.
just these kids that get in the car and they're like, and let's just go drive somewhere that's really not that far away. So it shows
Yeah.
up eventually.
So it doesn't.
And it just kind of turns into like, it it could have done more
So there's
with
no
it.
like origin story.
It
of,
kinda
like,
starts
where
to
this-
a little
where
bit.
it came from. It just starts out with just somebody getting
Yeah. I don't think
butchered,
it,
and then that's that.
yeah, I don't think it mentions where it came from. But to me,
It's an
the
interesting idea. for
way
sure.
would have to develop it more would have just been like the logistics of figuring out like shit, we have to move our lives, like get into the details of it, like
Right.
got to quit our jobs, got to explain this to like our friends and family of why we have to do this. And
Well, if we can, let's break this down a little bit. Like to make this better, wouldn't it made kind of some interesting sense if like let's say like the first third or like half of the movie, you go through like a couple characters, right?
Mhm.
And then finally this guy maybe
Go through them like they get axed.
yeah. And then let's say like this guy slept with a chick in like college or something. It was just like a one night stand, no big deal. He has this like experience with this thing, but he's like super intelligent, right? Years down the road, he's been like keeping up with it so much. But now obviously his wife is involved in this and he has to explain it to his wife because they got kids, you know,
yeah.
they at least had sex. And then all of a sudden he like, it was like a miscalculation. And then like, you know, maybe they moved every like 2 years to like a different country or something. Cause just logistically, that's what he figured out. And then there was like some miscalculation.
So it's kind of like those Purge movies. Like it's a good
Yeah,
premise
a
and you
little
could
bit.
make like a whole bunch of different scenarios out
Right.
of it. So yeah,
I think
that would create some drama.
the idea is like, I think the idea is like, I would say semi-solid.
Yeah.
It just feels a little empty when it's just like, so like, can you imagine going into like a studio and being like, all right, guys, what's the movie about? Well, you know, STDs, they suck. But what if they killed you? And everybody's like, well, some of them do. And they're like, okay, well, pretend like it's 1805, but in today's world,
Yeah.
an STD would murder you because it's a person
Yeah.
walking around. So that's where it gets a little goofy
Can make
to
this
me.
much more interesting than
Yeah.
herpes on your dick. It can be in the form of a person walking towards you with blood dripping out of their
Johnny
vagina.
Knoxville is coming at you.
Yeah, which is that's another like sometimes it doesn't make really any fucking sense sometimes because yeah, it always takes the form of another person, but sometimes the person's form that it makes is just doing weird things that don't really make sense.
See, that's what I.
Like
That's
they
what
do
I
them
meant.
just
is
to
it
be
like,
bizarre. Like there's this one time it shows up in the kitchen all of a sudden and it's like pissing its pants and
Oh,
like
yeah.
it looks like a hooker or something and it's all like ugh. Like
Yeah.
I don't. What's the pissing the pants thing? What
Yeah.
is that the?
That's where I would say
I just
it feels
don't-
a little empty.
I just don't get the. Does it get? Is that what it does when it gets excited when it sees somebody?
Oh,
I don't know.
gonna kill you.
Yeah, I don't know. And who are these people that it's taking the shape of? Is that
Right.
someone that it once was?
It just like bypass them, and then it's like I'll take that.
is that
shape.
someone it once killed?
Right.
Maybe. But
Yeah.
it doesn't. I don't think it
That's like,
explains that really.
Well, that's a little bit like Hereditary for me. Is like once you kind of knew, and maybe we can talk about this a little bit.
Christ.
I feel like most horror or thriller or like scare type genres, once you have enough information to understand what's going on, it just starts to fall apart. Do you agree with that
Yeah.
at all? Because like Hereditary, like that movie I thought was like that had me on like the edge of the seat the whole time up until it was like right, you know, the last like 5 minutes when it was like, okay, let's connect all the dots. And then it was just kind of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
There was enough it gave me that I was definitely clinging on to something because
Right.
I wanted to see how it unfolded.
Right.
But I was very confused yet intrigued and wanting to. I was invested, like I gave a shit about
Right.
finding out, and it was just so fucking messed up. And
Yeah.
I still need to give that one a second watch. Haven't done
Hereditary?
it. Yeah, haven't done it yet.
That
But
wasn't that review you sent me or I sent you?
Oh,
And it was
yeah.
like, you have to watch this another
Yeah.
time to understand some things.
Yep. And we love movies like that you can watch them a second time now understanding things.
Right. Or seeing, you know, obviously seeing things you didn't see
Yeah.
before. It's the best case scenario.
That's how I feel about like a whole lot of like really with any movie that I haven't seen in a little while because years fly by so fast and
Right.
perspectives change. And so watching some movies now, I watch them completely differently than when I
Right.
was younger because now I'm watching them not through the eyes of a child, but as an adult and not through the eyes of someone that doesn't know what they want to do with their life, but
Right.
someone who now does filmmaking and has to think about like all those kinds of things themselves. And so then you watch other people and you're like, oh shit, they had to like put this together. I wonder how they did that or
Right.
did this, or they had a long day, or
Oh, you should hear Kim talk about me when I watch movies, because shit, like something will happen, and she'll know it would be like production, like impressive, not just like green screen, that type of stuff. And the first thing she does is like this, just waits for my reaction. I'm like, and I'm always like, yeah.
right?
And then she's like, what do you think of that? I'm like, I'm just trying to break it down. Hold on one sec.
Yeah,
Because then I go through like the layers or what it would take to, pull one of those shots off. And then it's just like, man, that's impressive.
yeah.
Or, a whole scene or a movie or whatever. So I definitely agree with that. You know what we should do? I don't know why it just popped in my head. But we should really watch a movie that's like very unconventional for us and rate it.
Anything come to mind right away?
No. I just think because obviously both of us could stay in a very specific vein.
Right.
Like you said, we should, review the Star Wars movie and stuff. That's like such a specific vein for me. What if we pick something that's not like a romantic movie or something like, but just something a little bit off of our
Hopefully
beaten-
something we enjoy.
right. Just a little bit off of like our beaten path, so to say.
Sure.
I think that would be a little interesting.
What genre would we search for that under first?
No. See, the only thing I can think of is it would be like a romantic or like a drama or something like very
Right.
off of the thriller, horror, sci-fi, Tarantino, gritty, raw path. But, we'll figure that out.
There's
or
like-
somebody can leave a comment and suggest a movie that we want to watch,
Yeah.
and then we'll watch it and
I mean,
review it.
there's so many tour de forces
Right.
that people would say that I haven't seen
Yeah.
yet, but or like there's this one about it's called like The Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Kind of a mouthful there.
What was that Jennifer Lawrence movie that came out? Didn't you say you watched it and you said
Mother?
you liked it? Yeah. You liked that?
Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky.
Oh yeah. Isn't that such a cool name?
Yeah, it's really
His parents did a good job.
it's ridiculous, but it really rolls off the tongue, Darren.
Yeah, it's fun to
Aronofsky.
say. His parents did great. Like, thank you for doing that. It's such a filmmaker. Like,
Yeah,
that's
oh,
a
yeah.
very like dude that is very fucking like in his own head,
Yeah.
like very signature style.
Yeah, like maybe something like that
Yeah.
neither one of us haven't seen.
Dude, he is so like outside of the fucking like realm of what you normally get
Right.
from filmmaking. And if you like love fun camera techniques
Yeah.
and in-camera effects, like
Yeah.
look no further. This dude does like fucking incredible things,
Yeah.
like with very creative ideas, on minimal budget.
Hashtag Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, like what has he done? You might have. Did you see Black Swan? He did that.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense now, actually.
Yeah. I saw that once. Like, I'm not into ballerina movies,
Right.
so that's like my first fucking. Well, when that first came out, I was like, I don't want to watch a fucking ballerina movie with Natalie
Right.
Portman. Like, who cares? But then I was
Everybody
like,
loved that movie,
I was like,
though.
but it's Darren Aronofsky. And then once I knew who that was, then I watched it and I was like, okay,
I got it.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, the dude has a. You could probably get yourself caught up for a couple of weeks with just his filmography.
Right.
But yeah, that Jennifer Lawrence one you mentioned, Mother.
Let's you haven't seen all of his movies, right? Or you probably
No, I haven't seen everything, but
let's pick one of his and then do it.
yeah, he did. The Wrestler was really good with Mickey Rourke.
Oh,
That was
okay.
great. I loved that one. And he did Mother. He did Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. There's this other one he made.
How do you spell his
Shit, I
last
can't
name?
think of the name. Fuck.
How do you spell his last name?
Arron.
Here we are.
Yeah, he did something with shit. I don't even know how to describe it because I don't know what the hell was even going on.
let's.
For those of you just listening, we're looking at the filmography of Darren Aronofsky.
Let's go to
The
computer.
Fountain. That's what I was thinking of. If you watch that one, I haven't seen it yet, but that's what I want to see next. There's some visual
The
effects shit
Fountain.
going on there that was like crazy cool.
Right.
Yeah, like he had this person in a completely different realm or something, but he did it with like a very simple fucking trick with like melted ooze or something.
What is this? 2006.
I really don't even
How
know.
is this not on this? It's a little odd. I guess that would be directors. He's got a lot in pre-production. You can tilt that a little bit towards you if you want. Yeah, there's the fountain.
The Fountain. Yeah, I have not seen that, but I really would like
I just
to.
want to see this picture. My goodness.
Oh, there's another director I'm thinking of.
Oh, this has got huge Jackman in it.
Yeah, there's another one I'm thinking of. I forget the director's name. I don't think it's Aronofsky, but
Okay, we're gonna write
Dogtown.
Dogtown.
I think
That
that's the name
sounds
of it.
super familiar.
The movie plays out like it's on a stage, but yet it worked. No, not Lords of Dogtown. I don't think it's shit. No, it's not Dogtown.
Is it him? Is it
Uh,
Darren Aronofsky?
I don't know because I don't know the title of the movie. Shit. Oh, I feel
was
like
it
the
about?
word dog was in it though.
What was it about?
I don't even know because it's been so long since I've seen it.
Well,
But
that doesn't help at all.
I remember I really liked it, and it played out like it was on a stage, like the whole thing.
Right.
Oh, I just hope it hits me.
This is what we're talking about,
I
everybody.
just hope the name of the movie hits me.
The Fountain,
Somebody out there
directed by
listening might know.
Darren Aronofsky.
If I type the word dog,
Um,
Dogville.
Dog.
I think that was it. Yes, Dogville. Dogtown. That was, what the fuck is this? Lars von Trier.
Wow, that sounds 2003.
There's an artsy
Dogville?
fartsy name for you.
This one,
Yes.
Cole Kidman.
Yes,
I'm
that
gonna put Dogville down as well.
that played out like it was a stage play. And even though a woman on the run from the mob is reluctantly accepted in a small Colorado community in exchange for labor, but when a search visits the town, she finds out that her support has a price.
I wonder if let's just watch this live.
Is this a trailer?
This will be a trailer, yeah.
These fucking ads, God, they kill me. Okay, we're watching a trailer, y'all.
Yeah. Okay,
But it was
well,
good.
Let's go back to Matthew. That is very interesting.
So if you're looking for something off the beaten path,
So-
there you go.
I would say we're gonna watch these two next.
Nice.
Right here, everyone.
Well, that didn't take too long. So it's kind of funny coming right off the cusp of Justice League and Justice League that we watched back to back, then did a podcast, which was quite an endeavor.
Yeah, and then we didn't see or hear or talk to anybody in the podcast verse for months.
Right. For good reason.
But Dogville and the Fountain sound pretty interesting from a pretty like thinker standpoint. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like super cookie. Obviously, Dogville for sure is not super cookie cutter. And then the Fountain didn't look like that either. The Fountain looked a little bit more like eccentric, if that makes sense. And Dogville looks like a legit, like, I don't think you make that movie unless you're really invested.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of a kind that
Right.
I've come across so far.
Right.
It's another one of those ones that, like, at some point in my life, I saw it and I knew I really liked it, and parts of it like stuck with me. And it's like, gotta watch it again sometime.
Yeah.
I've never even seen it on a shelf anywhere. Like,
well, the quality. What would I exit out into that? But I don't. When was that actually done?
2003 or 4?
2003. Yeah, Paul Bettany. Some old time actors. Nicole Kidman. That is just crazy.
Okay, yeah. Stellan Skarsgård, Pennywise's father.
Yeah, Skarsgård.
Anyway,
So crazy, man.
yep.
Well, those would definitely be 2 interesting movies to take a shot at. To
Along
see
with watching anything Steven Seagal.
anything Steven Seagal, and then we had put down Tenet and Book of Eli.
Yeah,
These 2 are definitely in our vein. That's why I think we should try something outside of our vein. These 2 definitely feel. This one looks a little bit like close enough, but
Right.
outside. This one looks
yeah.
like a.
Well,
good
Tenet's got that
stone's
Christopher
throw.
Nolan. Like you talk about, anytime Christopher Nolan anything comes out and there's trailers running
Yeah.
for that, you bet your ass it's going to say from the director of the Dark Knight trilogy or Interstellar, or it'll just have his name really big across the
Right.
thing. But they're going to let you fucking know that it's Christopher Nolan.
Who it is, yeah.
Or something major that he's done every time with just blasting epic blaring
Yeah.
kind of honk sounding music,
Right.
because that's the thing nowadays, these big loud like horn noises.
Well, it represents something epic. That's the whole spiel. I
Yeah,
guess.
they just go like and they just do that like 15
You
times.
do that again.
I really don't have the energy.
Oh, wow. Well,
But
it's
anywho, so Tenet, I want to watch that one because I just heard so many people bitching about the sound mixing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You
like
didn't watch it at all, right?
no.
Okay.
Book of Eli I've seen once
Yeah, same.
a while back.
I remember watching that.
I mean, it's
thinking it was
Denzel
pretty
Washington.
good.
I mean, what's not to like?
It was. I feel like that's one of those movies. It's like that's kind of as fringe as you can get with a mainstream actor.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Where it's like the movie's like kind of, I guess like niche, niche type of movie, but having a mainstream actor in it gets it to that like A-list top tier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess he was going for that, like, well, he wasn't like an anti-hero in that, was he? Because he was just like,
No, I would say
he would only
was a
like kill
hero.
people that came at him first. But I like him in Training Day. That's my favorite of his.
Well, that is way different than Book of Eli.
It's a good one.
Spoilers.
Training Day is a good one.
Yeah, Training Day is pretty awesome.
Anyway, well, guess we sort of hit a brick wall there.
Yeah.
Wham.
You want to keep going?
Smack. Oh, if you want to talk about anything, that's cool. How long have we been at it?
40 minutes.
Oh, that's
just
not very
about.
long.
No.
Yeah, get a little more out of this. We weren't going to do this podcast.
We got to do it for the people.
We weren't going to do this, but you're going on your vacation tomorrow, so you got to be up pretty early.
Yeah.
But decided to cram it in. You got to cram them in where you can cram them in with these
Yeah.
podcasts. Just got to shove them in.
Let's think.
All you got to do is sit down. We don't got to do nothing but sit here, just jabber on about something.
What go-to game have you been playing? Obviously, I've been playing Mass Effect when I get to it, but
yeah, that'll be my next one after I get out of my GTA. Let's get 5 stars.
yeah,
And defend position for as long as we can till we get killed.
yeah,
It's
it's one of the
when
best
you
things.
respawn at the hospital.
Yep.
I just go up the ladder on top of the hospital. That's a great position, and I just start laying mayhem.
Yeah,
But you know what? When I first play GTA for the night or whatever, I do it the same way every single time. Like, not doing the missions. I used to in the older GTAs. That was great, but I stopped doing the missions with like the 5th one.
yeah,
I did them all the way up till 4.
yeah.
But with this one, I just like couldn't get into it, so I just like fucking play it for fun.
Oh yeah.
to run from the cops and stuff. But I play it the same way every single time, and I start off by being nice to people.
Yeah.
Like I don't fuck with anybody. Like you,
Yeah.
I just mind my own business.
You like really try.
Yeah, like I get in a car. I try not to hit people. I try not to hit other cars. I just try to drive really fast.
Yep.
And then I just like to see what happens.
Right.
And then when I eventually get killed, sometimes it takes a half hour, an hour even. Eventually I die because I eventually end up with police. I like get in an accident with somebody. They get pissed at me. I punch them in the face. Here comes a cop. I don't want to get busted, so I shoot him, and then that's how it goes.
Right.
And then as I like respawn and play another, then I start to get real impatient. Then I'm just like, anybody give me any excuse to punch you in the face.
Right.
Like, I won't hit you
It's
for no
over.
reason, but give me an excuse. And then the first person that like, I don't know, just gives me a look. Just
You're
like
driving
"Whoa,"
on the
right in the
sidewalk
face.
and they're like, "Hey, watch out."
Yeah. And then I get the cops on me faster. And then by like the third or fourth time, I just start killing people right away and get on the roof of the hospital and just see how long I can defend. And that's like my GTA run. That's
Right.
my winding down
Yeah.
for the day or for the night.
Yeah.
I do wish I could antagonize people like you do in Red Dead Redemption. If they go by me on their horse and I
sure
say I'm
GTA
nice,
6
I say howdy
will
partner.
have that.
If they don't say anything nice back or they don't say anything at all,
Right.
I pull out my revolver and I just like pop, 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 like six shots like right in the
Are
face.
you playing that at all?
No, but I really want to play it again.
That is
Oddly
a game,
enough, both Girl Alex and Evie told me separately that they just started playing that game. And I'm like, both of you at the same time just started playing Red Dead Redemption again.
that is
Shit,
a
maybe I need to
game
play that.
that I feel like I need to give a second chance to.
It was cool,
Because
dude. Yeah, that game's awesome.
I hopped in for like literally 2 nights. I think they were back-to-back nights because people at work were like, dude, you gotta play Red Dead. There was like, 4 of us played. I think it was, like I said, 2 nights in a row. And it was so much fun with a group
Yeah.
because you can just literally, gang up on whatever you want. And then nobody else got on. And then that was that,
Right.
and that game definitely, because I think you can like fast move or like jump from locations.
Yeah. If you don't want to wait around for
Right.
the ride, you can skip it.
But that is one of those games where it definitely pushed my patience on like what a game should be for traveling. Because there are some games I really enjoy, like
They're really going for that immersion.
yeah, like Mass Effect does it. I feel like a pretty decent way, where it's like, obviously I'm still in the first Mass Effect, so I don't know if they changed it at all, but like going from the Citadel to like a planet, like you just like go through the map, you pick the planet, and then you're on the planet, and then you travel a little bit,
Right.
and that feels right. That feels about
Yeah.
right. You kind of get the sense of time and travel.
I like the soundtrack while you're going through it too.
yeah.
It's just you chill for a minute.
But then like you hit like Red Dead, where it's like, I'm going to be literally traveling across this map for 5 minutes now. And then it's like,
If you're lucky, it could be
Yeah.
way longer.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like that just starts to feel a little odd.
Yeah.
That
I get it.
That's where like my disconnect happened. It's just like, no. I do this in real life. I didn't want this when
Yeah.
I had time to like veg out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I guess that's why they try to throw in like bandit crews and stuff from
Right.
time to time. Or an alligator tries to eat
Yeah,
you.
because what you want is to be robbed on the way to your mission or objective.
Dude, no longer are the days where I go around and I try to like find all the fucking pelts and animal skins and antlers to construct some kind of fancy bear hat that I'm gonna wear,
Right.
or some Viking helmet. Like, I'm just no longer are the days of hunting 200 pigeons across Liberty City and unlocking achievements and feeling all good about myself.
Yeah. I feel maybe this is kind of a conversation we can stumble into, but I want to know if it's no, you know who it was? It was Seth. Seth, our buddy Seth. I won't say his last name just in case, you know.
Protect your
don't
identity.
want to
Seth.
out him out. But he told me one time, like I had said something to him. This was years ago, I think. But after, he had like 1 or 2 kids, and he made like a real passing comment about like not being able to play games anymore, but not because he didn't have the time, because there was just like no interest in anymore. And he said something. I'm almost positive it was him, and basically what he said was like, you know, at this point in my life, like life has become like more interesting than games has. And I never like really understood that until probably like the past 2 years,
Right.
honestly, where it's like games were like a legit outlet that I kind of needed. And then, you know, we kind of, you know, with the pandemic, I personally was thrown into unemployed, or, you know, not being employed. And then hopefully the business can, you know, support both of us. And then it was just like all of a sudden for me, it was like life was like the game to figure out. And it felt way more like, I felt way more accomplished, and like I had so much more fun just kind of like figuring out the real things rather than sitting down.
Yeah, I felt the exact same.
You know what I
way.
mean, though?
Yeah, truly.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is. Like to slowly have that realization over time, and just more and more how important it is to like win the game of life, more so than just some disc you put in the tray from time to time that you're going to forget about, or it's just going to be some nostalgic memory. Right. In any case, it doesn't even compare to like the game of life and working on yourself rather than your fucking avatar in your video game. The feeling of reward that you get in the actual real world, you can't even put a multiplier on it, to use that big Q word. It's not even quantifiable because it's just not like the sense of like accomplishment you get. And like, I guess in Seth's case, having like children and stuff, and like why would you play a video game when you could be using your time to like play with your kids, or playing fucking Mario Kart with them? Right. That doesn't count as, but in the vein of like getting immersed in some avatar universe.
And I told a childhood friend one time, I think I told you this story, but his name is David, obviously no last name for secrecy's sake, but him and his wife were like talking about having kids, and they weren't sure, blah 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 blah, and he was like, you know, I know you have a son, how was that, like what was it like? And I think this is when my mind started to change, but it wasn't like a full, like, you know, life is a lot more fun than games type of thing. And I told him, I said, I have not ever been around anything that I can look at and like watch pure thought happen other than a child. Like I've never experienced like talking to this little thing in front of me, and just like you can see everything just like turn and like they're comprehending for the first time. And it was like, that is way more satisfying than a game.
Yeah, you don't want to miss those
much
moments.
more satisfying. And it's just like so crazy to me that like, well, not to get into like a deep dark thing, but like I don't understand people that like devalue their children, or like just like don't want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like
probably just like addicts and stuff.
Right. But like I remember holding him when he was super, super young, and like doing things with him. Like I've told you this before, but like just like the magic tricks where like I would take a coin and like just go like this real quick and let it drop down my long sleeve shirt.
Yeah.
And then I'd like distract him over here and like flick it out to my hand, and then wrap my hand around his head and like touch the coin to the back of his ear, and then like pull it out. And it was just like, you could literally just watch his brain try to comprehend things. Right. It's not like an adult where you're just like talking to them and you just like know they've heard things, or like they're comprehend. It's just like so different. It is just unbelievably different. Like I always talk about how like our like work now is like pure creation, because we're, that's our company. That alchemy point is like taking nothing and then making something of it.
Yeah,
but like that's literally what like a child is. It's like you literally have this thing that's just like information input over and over and over and over and over, and then at some point it starts to click and then give that back to you. And that's like pure, like whatever you want to call it, and it's just like so interesting seeing that firsthand.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, like him saying like, games aren't like that, and I know he still plays games to some extent, but I think everybody does. I mean, I'm never going to stop playing games. It's just like the time that I would lend to games is a lot less.
It's an interesting like experiment in action for the first time, because we're the first generation to grow up that like grew up on video games beyond the ones that were just like storyless, like 8-bit, just blips and blops going around the screen.
Beyond Pong.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like we were the first generation like to move into our adulthood where we had spent our childhoods like deeply fucking immersed for hours and hours. Like some people like more hours
I can't
in
tell
the
you
game
how many
than
hours
in the real world.
Like me and Andrew played like Zelda.
Yeah.
Like he would ask for the like player's guide, and we would just sit down for God knows how long and play whatever Zelda game is. And, he would be having the controller or, whatever. And then I'd be like reading the book, trying to figure out what he was looking for or whatever it was, and
that like sparks our, like our inner creativities. And that's what we derive from those sources. Like when we come up with our own ideas, like even if we don't notice it, like a lot of our things are ingrained in like that upbringing and those things. But yeah, then there just becomes a certain point where like you stop playing the games and you start applying what you had played earlier in your life. And that's your chapter to tell. I guess that's each generation's chapter to tell.
No, I think that's a pretty brilliant way to say it, because like that's like, people say that like video, like flash back to like the old school, like when video games were coming around, people are like, oh, these are awful, they're worthless and blah, blah, blah. But like,
it's a fad.
It's a fad. Just like the internet's a fad, everyone, just in case you knew, you didn't know it's a
going
fad.
out of style.
But like, I really think whether it's like, terrible interactions with people or team building skills, I think like you could kind of go on a little bit, on and on and on, but like the what would you call that? Like the abilities you gain or the characteristics that you could take away from like a video game. At some point, I feel like as a gamer do get applied to real life, and in some cases can benefit you greatly.
Sure.
Just like really, really good.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe if you didn't play games, you wouldn't have that edge on whatever it is. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because let's take a really stupid game. Not stupid game. I apologize to everyone.
Apologize to the game.
I'm so sorry. But like, let's take a game like Call of Duty or like even like, Minecraft or just anything where you can get a group together and your mission is a single thing, right? Because there are like Minecraft like groups and stuff that are out there that, go and like build just giant like real world size things. And it's like, oh my gosh, like what type of team building does it take? Or like, Call of Duty, where it's like, you have a set amount of players and you guys got to click 100% to beat everybody you're playing. Then it's like, I would put like the leader of those groups up against anybody that had a bachelor's in business, and I can boss people around the best because I got a piece of paper. I would put those gamers up against anybody because in a weird sense, at some point, the statement will be true, but it will be real world
experience,
Mhm.
right? Like right now, all companies pretend like you come in here with a degree, but you also need 5 years experience. That's what we need. But you can't get that without being like an intern or something stupid.
Yeah.
Well, at some point in life, I think in the near future, if you have some type of proof where you've led some type of virtual realm or group, that should apply and could apply at some point to an actual job. Because why couldn't it and shouldn't it?
Right.
Because like building something or leading a team in a game is, in my mind, at least to a certain extent, 0% different than doing it in real world. There's no difference there. You have the basic set of like rules or things you have to do. You know what I mean? Like at some point that's going to cross over.
So I feel like there's this almost dissolving of the word video game.
Right.
And we're trying to find a new terminology like virtual reality.
I've
and
heard
that's just going to be,
oh man,
it's just a different construct of reality, but it shouldn't be thought of with the stigma of like game attached to it, video game, that those waste of times those kids do nowadays.
I've heard a term recently. Keep talking. I'm trying to find out what that was.
But there's going to come a point where the virtual world and the physical world,
metaverse,
there's going to be a really thin line, I think, between the two.
That's what
forms.
That's what I've heard a lot lately. Metaverse, meaning like this digital realm that is going to be created, whether it be like VR or just like whether it's like an actual thing, like I'm going to put on this headset, or just the acceptance of like a digital skill or whatever it may be. At some point it's gotta happen.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, then that means like there will be no adaptation. So it's like, at some point when everybody's kind of doing the same thing digitally and businesses or whatever needs a certain thing, then they have to adapt to that.
Yeah.
They can't just say, oh no, that doesn't count. Well, yeah, it does.
Right.
Because, I've been leading a group of, like to get like really goofy about it to a certain extent. It's like, I've been watching these Minecraft videos because it just amazes me like how long Minecraft has been around, honestly, and just relevant. It's just like psychotically good. There are like teams that go and build these like giant structures. Like somebody who actually has an architecture like background that plays Minecraft and leads a team that would then in real world know what they're doing. I just don't see how that couldn't be like you can't just say that person doesn't have experience.
Yeah.
If they're if they're literally there, like, okay, you guys start, digging these blocks out and you guys start laying those and blah, blah, blah. That's literally what like they would be doing in real life. So why is that any different?
Right. It could be like, hey, we got to 3D print this thing. So get in there and make it.
Right.
Get all in those nitty gritty and all in the corridors and everything and design it, program it, whatever. You can walk around in there like it's your actual physical body.
Right.
And design it.
Yeah.
Just like that's the way board meetings and everything's going to happen. You're all going to be able to meet up in a room that feels like the real thing. You can see and hear people just like I can see you and hear you across from me. But we're just going to be holograms or avatars or whatever.
I can't tell you how many different versions of the same thing I've seen already where it's like whether it's, on the computer or like a VR set, it's like these basically like virtual boardrooms, kind of like what you were just explaining. I can't remember the name of the companies.
There's going to be no fucking point to physically be anywhere anymore.
Listen, the picture was literally this. It was like three or four people on that side, 3 or 4 people on that side. They were all digital avatars.
Yeah.
And then they each had like screens in front of them, which would have been their own computers wherever they were at. And then they had like a big screen in front with the person like presenting. And I was like, wow, like that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
There are already virtual reality like workstations that you can use where you put a VR headset on, and then all of a sudden, instead of having like this monitor here, for people at home, I'll show, like instead of having two monitors here, what you would have is this virtual thing in front of you like this, and you could say, oh, I want 4 screens. Then those 4 screens would pop up right in front of you, and then you have, you know, your physical keyboard or something here that you can type on. But then, you know, let's say you have the stonks up on the top side, and then, you know, editing on the bottom.
I was going to say DaVinci.
Right. And then but then all of a sudden you don't need screens anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All you need is a headset, because then you just say, I want a screen.
Yeah, you just put your hand up and swipe around.
Right.
Like Iron Man or something. Yeah, it's always going to go for like customer satisfaction and convenience and saving time and saving money, and
right.
who does it the best.
My thing is once these systems are kind of like up and running, it's just like there's no holding anything back.
No turning
anymore.
back. Yeah, it's really fucking interesting to like. It's going to be considered really weird to meet somebody physically. It's almost going to be considered gross. Like,
oh yeah,
you put your
it's
physical fucking body, your whole organ and being next to someone else's. Ew, you could catch something.
Right.
And we're going to be so fucking germophobic and clean and have no fucking built-in immunity to fight back against anything, because we're going to be so clean and in our bubbles.
Not to be super conspiracy or anything, because
well,
you know I love that, but that is something that I actually heard. Okay. I don't know if it was Rogan's podcast or whoever it was, but basically the idea was that a lot of this COVID stuff going on, especially with like the hindrance of like physical proximity, is to expedite the technology in the background and force people into this like kind of like distant realm of like everybody's in this like VR world.
It was already moving fast,
you know.
And think of how much more socially awkward we're all going to be.
I'm not going to be social. Actually,
you're going to have to deal with a lot of socially awkward people. If you have to deal with them at all, you might not have to.
No, that's why. Well, shout out to my son's school, which I won't say the district, but
not including last names, including districts.
But we went to his like meet the teacher night tonight. That's what we were like just home after you got here. And everything was in person. Masks were optional. It was so freaking nice.
That's coming to an
end. Especially, I hope not. Especially after last year where we didn't have a meet the teacher night. Everything was masked up. And I don't want to get into like a weird conversation about like, oh, I'm for mask or for vaccine.
Yeah,
but like
that all night.
Yeah, it's just COVID is real. You have to take precautions. You have your own decisions to make, whatever. But I hated seeing those kids in masks literally for a whole year.
Mm.
That was horrible.
Yeah, it really brings down the morale.
Yeah, no kid should have to wear a mask in school. Like, there's just... Like, think about it right now. Like, if I'm looking at you and this is what you see, all of a sudden, all of my cues and tells and your, like, information receptors are completely gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just, like,
they're going to get through anyway. Like, if it's going to spread, it's going to spread. They're, like, all over each other in there.
Right.
Like...
Yeah.
Give me a break.
That was one of the funniest comments on Facebook I saw was like, it was for the school district page. And it was like, you people really think that these kids aren't going to start trading masks?
Yeah.
Like in the
There's
middle
no
of
fucking
whatever.
way it's going to make any difference whatsoever. But, you know, beside the point. But yeah, you lose so much. And it's like the fallback or the negative consequence. Like so many of them are just like not even considered when certain things are done. It's like, oh, we're doing this for like the greater good or the protection of this or that. But it's like, but at the cost of what?
Right.
It's like no one talks about that.
Well,
we're closing gyms. Great idea.
Right.
Wow, what a momentum killer for people that were just getting going.
So this is something that goes back to the thing that I literally have on my phone all the time. You probably won't be able to see this. I'm gonna focus it. Hold on.
Here we go. For those of you just listening, he's focusing the camera on his phone.
Can you read that, everyone?
Is that like the alchemy symbol?
It says to obtain something. It says, oh, now I got to focus Matt. Sorry.
Hey guys.
So my point to this is, so what it says is to obtain something of equal value must be lost. In this world that we live in, there is nothing that we can take away without giving something ourselves. And what that means is yes, for those who know, that is Full Metal Alchemist. I freaking love that show. It literally lives on my phone, but that is such a like telling thing of like human nature and like the universe that we live in. For every action, there is an equal and opposite one. And what that means is if I want to build a business, I have to give equal time to build that business. If I want to dig a hole out back, I have to give time and energy to that to build that. If that makes sense to everybody, my camera just went dead. Can you change that battery?
We knew it was going to happen.
So my point is that if masks are required, what are you giving away to have that safety? And that's the issue that I have with everything is I don't think anybody actually listen. I want everybody to be safe. I had no problem wearing masks at all. I really didn't. But this weird thing where it's like now we're just going to wear masks for a vaccine, and maybe I'll get into this just slightly, but
go for it.
For those who don't know, a vaccine is something that you take or given through shots or whatever that kills a virus. Now let me say this again. A vaccine kills a virus. Everybody get that? Now, I am not against the vaccine. I am not anti-vaccine. My concern here is this. A vaccine kills a virus. What is being given to the masses is not a vaccine. It is what we would call a treatment, which lessens the chance of getting the virus and or lessens the symptoms from the virus. This is why people are so freaking confused about all of this. My whole thing with if the government, the CDC, whoever is talking to whoever would be 100% honest with everybody, it would be so much better. A vaccine kills the virus. That's why when people are saying like, "Oh, I don't know why you wouldn't get the virus. We've been getting vaccines. We've been getting vaccines forever for like polio, the bird." Well, listen, the polio, bird flu, and all that other stuff killed the virus. So guess what? It was an actual vaccine. What we're getting now is a treatment that does not protect you from the vaccine or the virus. Sorry, I'm confusing the V words. The vaccine that we're getting does not protect you from the virus. It is, easing the symptoms. You can still carry it and transmit it. That's not a vaccine. We shouldn't have been told it was a vaccine. That's my biggest issue with all this stuff. And then on top of that, all that nonsense, we get left and right and left and up and down conversations about masks and how they work and how they protect you and me. The only actual sense that I've ever heard is you wear a mask to protect others from yourself. if you're sick, if you're not showing symptoms, if you're not showing signs of anything, there's no need to wear a mask. That's what I've literally heard from doctor type talk from doctors online that haven't been silenced out of the ass.
Yeah.
Which is a ridiculous thing because I don't know why anybody would ever be silenced for just talking about anything. That's one of the craziest things about America right now is because everybody just wants to silence everybody because they don't want to hear anything.
Yeah.
The easiest way to talk about things is to talk about things.
Yeah. I think for the vast majority of people,
that was a lot.
For the vast majority of people, their sentiment is in the right place. And they think it's because people with opposing viewpoints are stonewalling them and standing in the way of progress. And that's frustrating because there are lives at stake and it is a big deal. And it has cost people their livelihoods and people, their family members. And so people want something to be done about it. And so a lot of people think they have the right answer and that it's so obvious.
Right.
But the truth, unfortunately, is not something that is commonly cycled around. The information that we get, it happens so fast and it's so convoluted, and there's so many talking heads, and you should do this, you should do that, and people don't even really. They only have so much time every day that they can put the mental fortitude into like absorbing this information. And so if we have the capacity to hear the truth, it's just, we don't seem to hear the truth. We just get in these political talking points.
Right. And that's because
these bravado battles that go nowhere and solve nothing.
And that's because we do this weird thing where it swings one way, we believe that, and then it swings another way and we believe that. When I would say 9 times out of 10, the truth with these type of things where like information is literally happening, you know, especially at the beginning, information was coming out like every hour, like something changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the truth is somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
We can't just go extreme one way and then extreme the next and say that's okay.
Well, wasn't there that whole debacle with the masks don't work, but it was only said in an effort to keep people from hogging up and hoarding all of the masks?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Listen, our county that we live in, okay, which once again I won't say.
We'll slip up eventually. Keep listening.
Was found... Listen to this. I don't know if you know this, but I read a whole article on it. So this is the stuff that makes me not believe when someone gets up in government and says, this is what we should do, right? Our county was running short on all kinds of serious supplies, whether it be toilet paper, disposable masks, blah, 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 blah. All of the stuff that
PPE.
we were told, you know, we needed to stay in our houses and this and that. Well,
probably ammo too.
About 30 minutes away from here, at some point after restrictions were let up. Well, that was really weird. Interesting. After restrictions were let up, someone stumbled upon an entire warehouse full of these items. Now,
the plot thickens.
What I would say is that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Nope.
And it was found out later. Can you hear it jumping from ear to ear?
Yeah, it keeps switching.
That's very odd. I don't know what that is.
In my ear.
It was found out later that the person leasing or renting that building was the government.
Ooh.
Our local government.
Ooh.
I'm going to unplug my mic and plug it back in. But what do you think about that?
Well, I find it a little difficult to listen to them insist on what the truth is when it's so transparent that they've been telling so many lies.
Right.
It's like the boy that cried wolf or whatever you want to compare it to. But if we discover that you're full of shit and everything coming out of your mouth is bullshit, 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 the next thing you say, I'm not like clinging on to the arms of my chair, like ready to believe you. Like,
Right.
well, tell me what the answer is.
Well,
You know, pap, pap, uncle
that goes-
government.
Right.
Because
that
you're
go-
going to do what's best for me. It's bullshit. Like,
yeah, that goes back to my original statement that I said a really long time ago when it was like, hey, you remember like a year or so ago when no one liked the government?
mhm.
What
What happened
what
to that?
happened all of a sudden? And all listen, I am not trying to make this a conspiracy theory, anti-vax, anti-safety thing.
It's a discussion.
It's
It's like
just-
we're trying to, it's the search for truth. And
It is a conversation where it's like a lot of this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And the people that say, well, you're seeing it the wrong way, it does make sense. I would say I would lend myself to my ideology. I question everything. The truth will stick. And if I question something and it doesn't make sense or it doesn't add up, then something is off.
Yeah.
And my whole point is something feels off about all of this. And I think what it comes from is there was so much information coming out like in rapid succession, just, unbelievably fast. So much so that there was no one person that could say this is right or this is wrong. So we have our government, the CDC, we have WHO, we have, then we have, federal government, then we have state government, then we have like township, we have 1,000 different forms of whatever saying semi different things. Who is going to know anything? And then all of a sudden, in rapid time, we get a vaccine that's not truly a vaccine. And then, that's being tested, and then we get masks, which I actually had zero issue wearing masks. I really didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I walked around with mine on, and if I saw someone without it, like during that time of 2020, I would think to myself, well, that's kind of like a defiant douchebag, like, because I was wearing it because I thought that's what was good for everybody around me.
Right.
And if I saw someone without it, I'd just be like, okay, like, I'm not going to like go up to them and punch them in the face or scream at them.
Right. And the thing about it to me is that at that time, that was, I think, the right thing.
I would look at them the
think it was
same
right
way
thing.
I look at somebody smoking a cigarette next to the
Right.
gas pump, pretty much.
Right. Because it's just kind of like, hey, we are all in this together, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I don't question things. I think that's what it comes down to in my
Right.
head.
And you cannot fucking mandate what people do with their bodies.
Right.
We need to have like full autonomy on this or not. Like the same people
Right.
that are, a woman should have a right to choose what she does with her body.
Right.
Then you're going to speak out and say that people should be made to have this shot put in their arm of something that's not even FDA approved yet. And you got United
Right.
Airlines like forcing all of their employees to get the vaccine.
Right.
And like I'm always talking about with this fucking genie and that genie bottle, like he's kind of getting out of that thing. And, if you let this go, it's just not going to fucking stop with just the vaccine.
Well,
Maybe sticking something else in your arm next month and they'll have some
Right.
other reason or mandate
Well,
you to
there
do
was,
something or close down your business.
I want to say it's Italy or something like that. So I can't remember what country it was.
Australia?
No, but they mandated that like everybody has to get the vaccine. So there were protests that broke out in the street, and people that got vaccinations were burning their vaccination cards in protests, because even the people that got vaccinations agreed that there is no right a government has to say
Right.
you have to get this.
No, yeah.
Which is very interesting
Yeah.
to me.
It's not like everybody gets the vaccine and then everything's sunshine and rainbows forever. It's
Right.
like, no, that you've just opened Pandora's box.
Right.
And now you're fucked.
Right. And listen,
You
like I
can't
said,
stand for that at all. People got to like take a stand like now.
yeah. And like I
against
said,
this bullshit.
this is not like anti-safety. This is just, I know for me, I want what's best for everybody. And that the immediate answer would be like, oh, well, then get the vaccine. Well, guess what? When I was born, doctor shot me full of steroids. It didn't affect me very well, but according to them, it kept me alive. So, there are pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not, I don't come at this like I'm completely like unchecked from like society. It's just like, just because a doctor says this is good, it may not always be 100% what you think it is. Because that salesman might have walked in today and said, hey, we'll give you 30% more on everything you sell. And that is our American society.
Yeah.
Like in the healthcare system.
Right.
That's how that works.
Right.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everybody wants to maintain their plushy positions and make their big bucks every year.
And so when you think about like this whole COVID thing, my actual thought process starts to lean towards who's making the money. I mean, I didn't want to get this deep in the conversation, but it's like
quick mention
when the government starts to say, okay, we'll start out 3. I don't know how this is cutting out. Test. That's so weird. But maybe it's YouTube. Maybe YouTube's cutting us off. When the government's saying, yeah, we'll write a check for $3 trillion.
Just throw it on the pile.
And guess what? America saw how much of that? In the millions or billions. And we're talking about $3 trillion.
Pretty big number.
Who is getting the other cuts of the pie? So my point is, I think getting the vaccine is the surface level argument that we were pushed into arguing about.
Right.
There is so much more deeper down in the depths. There's so many more questions down in the depths that need to be answered, but no one wants to talk about that because all we are is once again complaining about something so freaking surface level.
Yeah. It's like this cancel culture.
Yes.
Is so fucking dangerous.
Yeah. And it's because, like, not to get in this subject, but it's like, this is going to sound terrible coming out, but I'm going to say it anyway because I don't care. This whole vaccine thing is no different than just like flat out people calling other people racist because of a statement that's not racist.
Right.
And the issue I have with it is you can't just shut people down because they make a statement. If America really wants to be like the beacon of hope that some people say it once was and then other people say never existed, the real like hope in America is this. When you say fuck America, you can only say that because you're American.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes America great.
Right.
That's like the bottom line that I have to say is because when you can yell at someone and then have a conversation about your different beliefs, that's what makes America great. And people forget that constantly because
it's like a testament to
right. And it's
self.
just because like people think if they're not winning, they're losing. No.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with someone or you don't feel like you're winning in the conversation, that's what makes America great, because you can have that conversation, come away interested in what the other person has to think, and you can still be okay. You can still live here. You can still move on with your life. That's what makes America great. Like, let's be honest right now, this whole interesting thing in the Middle East is very weird. You know what I mean? What makes Afghanistan great? Well, now the women and girls that are in Afghanistan are terrified.
Yeah.
Right? You don't hear about that quite as much in America. What makes America great is we have the ability to have conversations and push for things and change laws. Let's just think about the LGBTQ plus, community. Like, my brother is a part of that. 20, 30, 40 years ago, that would have been way harder on my brother.
Right.
Now, my brother just had to deal with a shithead family that didn't understand where he was coming from.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's still really, really tough. But you know, like I talk to my brother now and I've apologized to him a million times over. And it's like, you know, you're in an America that's not where you want it to be, but my God, it is so different than it used to be. And that's what makes America great. You have like Afghanistan or some countries that are literally just stuck in a pinpoint time period.
Right.
You're not getting any different.
Yeah.
Because of the ideology or the belief system. And I'm not picking on Afghanistan as some crazy thing. It's just like the hot topic right now. But it's like with this like vaccine, masks, race, you know, basically it's race baiting, but it's just
dividers.
All this is dividers to keep the nation itself divided. Mm-hmm. So that as a people, we can be controlled. I would love America as a whole, as a people, not as Republicans and Democrats, as a people, because we are not what our political affiliation is. We are not what our skin color is. We are not what our religion is. We are our own people. We find, I think Americans need to find identity in themselves, not what they like or like to talk about is what it comes down to in my head. You know what I mean? If we could find identity in ourselves and then walk up to our neighbor, no matter what the color, no matter what the religion, no matter what the belief, no matter, you know, if they have guns, wear a mask or vaccinated, but whatever, no matter what, we can find common ground as human beings. And the best example of that is go hop on YouTube or old like Vine compilations or TikTok or something. You will find a video of children before they have been spoiled mentally running up to each other and hugging. Different colors, different religions, different languages. You want to know why? Because they have not been brainwashed by a system yet.
Right.
So they know that is another person. And that's all they know. All they know is that's a human being. I'm a human being. He's smiling. I'm smiling. She's smiling. They're smiling, you know, whatever. And I'm going to have fun with them.
Right.
And I saw that same type of stuff in like, my son, when he was little, we take him to the park and he just goes and says, "Oh, I made a new friend." Well, who is it? I don't know his name. And then it's, you know, a little boy runs by us and he's like, "Oh, that's the one."
Right.
It didn't matter color. It didn't matter sex or gender. It didn't matter anything.
All right.
It didn't matter at all. And then all of a sudden, as we grow up, we just get thrown all these biases on top of, you know, living.
Right.
And then it's like, when I got to think a certain way. Fuck it. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Fight it. Fight it hard.
Right.
Because it's destroying everything you know and love.
Right. Yeah, we tend to put people in these boxes and put a banner above it or a flag above it with like one tagline of rhetoric. And then we classify and judge everybody underneath that flag and that rhetoric as all the same. Like everybody who thinks this way, has this opinion, espouses this idea, they must come from this camp that has like this horrible tagline of rhetoric, you know, which the popular one today is like racist or homophobic or whatever. You can't even introduce certain ideas or thought processes without eventually frog hopping all the way to some kind of label that can be slapped on you.
Yeah.
Because people have, as people get older and they have more responsibilities and more stresses, they have anger that builds up in them and they want to just find some kind of they have an axe to grind and they would want to vent it on somebody or something or some idea. And there's 24 hours in a day. We spend 8 of them sleeping, and there's a small part of that, small window of that has to deal with whatever's going on in the world, and everybody has their opinion about how it should be dealt with. And this is what I think about it with the very fucking little information that I have. And if someone thinks differently, well, then fuck them.
Right.
They must stand for all these other stupid ideas too. And then someone comes along and it's like, well, we should just shut them the fuck up and just ban them. You know what? That's a good idea. I'm sick of hearing them. Flag them, take them down, demonetize them, remove them.
Right.
Get rid of the discussion.
Right.
And then the people with the true power and influence, they're just laughing on the sidelines. And then they just come in and, we've already all killed each other.
Right. Well, and that is along the same lines as I told you the other day when Rogan said, what was his stance on it? What did he say? He said something along the lines of, I don't care if, websites want to demonetize or, take financial, prospects or like gainings or earnings from people if, they break the website's rules or guidelines, because that makes sense, because a website or like a business can create their own guidelines of what they want in that space, right?
Yeah.
But the moment that people are silenced, that is a huge issue.
Right.
Because then all of a sudden there is an obvious narrative that needs to be followed, and anybody that doesn't follow that is wrong and silenced. And that is terrifying.
Yeah. Where do we draw the line? Who's the silencer? Who silences the silencer? Where do we draw the line in what we silence? How do we determine that? Who determines that?
Right. And it's always...
You'll never fucking figure it out.
Right.
It'll just turn into another tug-of-war match that's just going to result in more tension and bullshit and everything bad that you don't want. So
it really is what it comes down to.
To put it in, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Right.
Yeah. And it just keeps going and going and going. It's like people have always been like tribal, and it's like things revert back to that tribalism.
Right.
Like, but when I was listening to Jon Stewart today, he mentioned that America is the first place where we try and have succeeded of breaking outside of that mold of tribalism and instead going for democracy, which has never been done before.
Right. 100%. The issue now that I see is a statement that I probably heard on a podcast. I don't remember where I heard it, but the issue now that I see, and I do agree with this statement, and I do not mean it towards like the LGBTQ plus community at all, but it's just a statement that said something to the effect of Rome fell when Romans started worrying more about their genitalia than helping the other person. And obviously that's like very strictly applicable to today, especially with LGBTQ and all of that movement, which
and the pronouns,
right, and the pronouns, and
that's a real problem, legislating that. What people have to say
to a certain extent, and this gets us in trouble by saying this, but I support those type of people. But like with everything, when you are starting to apply law to that affects other people,
right, that's the problem.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
But the whole purpose of me saying something about like the Roman side of things is the idea behind that statement is Rome fell at 200 or whatever years it was. America is the longest standing country of sorts that has made it past that point, I believe. Right. So all of a sudden we find ourselves at this like paradox of where like we're in this period of like, this is where we should fall. And all of a sudden we're right where the Romans were in worrying about our genitalia than helping other people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that scares me, because like I told you the other day, somebody said recently that I heard, history doesn't repeat itself, it echoes itself. And that's terrifying, because it won't necessarily sound exactly the same, but my God, will it be the same?
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Right. Because human beings are still here.
Right.
They're still human beings are still the creatures that are in the experiment, if you want to call it that.
Oh yeah, because listen, I mean it frustrates me to the point where I could probably think about it enough to cry. I want so badly to be able to walk down the street or walk into Walmart or, you know, whatever convenience store is around you and just be like not worried about what everybody like you know, in all honesty, Matt can attest to this. I don't really care what people think about me. Honestly, I really don't. I'm just that kind of like a-hole personality. Can you agree?
You have your shining moments.
Right. But I want so badly not to have to worry about like what I'm saying to someone, you know, or like if I look at someone, they're just going to automatically assume I don't like that race or that type of person. It's like, no, I don't give a flying whatever who you are, how you are, you know, what race, how you want to dress, what you want between your legs. Like that's where I'm at with it. I don't care at all.
That's just the convenient scapegoat.
Right.
All.
And that is like that, like I said, that is that surface level argument or like attitude people want to keep with certain things because they're just, I don't know if it's they're scared of people accepting it or they're scared because they've been hurt so much. And I know this is a process that it takes to get from like, you know, like outside like point A to point Z. I know that's a process and it sucks that it feels like we're in this weird mid area of this process. And I can't wait until we hit Z where I walk outside and, you know, there's just this feeling of like, no one care. Like, I don't care what you're doing because guess what? I'm okay with you. Or, you know, like, to bring it a little closer home for me, it's like, you know, my younger brother is gay. So I have a choice whether to say, oh, my relationship with him is now affected by his sexuality. That is the like at this point in my life, that is the craziest thing to say out loud. That is stupid to say out loud.
Yeah.
Like, why would I jeopardize my brother?
Yeah.
Over just because all of a sudden he you know,
that would just be doing it for the sake because you were told that when you were little.
And it's just like, no, I love my brother because he's my brother, not because he's supposed to think like me and like girls.
Right.
You know, that is just in my mental space now, if you will. That is crazy to me. I would not jeopardize my brother's relationship if he liked, well, if he liked donkeys, that would be a little weird. I'd probably talk to him about that, but
probably not healthy.
But you know what I mean? Like, if he chooses to have boyfriends, marry a guy, you know, have a relationship with a guy, a future with a guy, blah 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 blah, I don't care. I don't give a flying whatever.
Right.
You know,
life's too short to get hung up on stuff like that.
Getting heated, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't. I want to meet his husband. I want to, you know, love him and his husband because they're family. Like there's no issue there.
Right.
But the issue now, I think that issue now with, you know, a good 7, 8 out of 10 people is we got to get past the surface thing where it's like, you just don't like me because I'm this way. No, shut up. Like, get past that. Let's start talking about it, and then we can find this mutual ground. Like, I have an actual story. I'm not going to tell the story, but I have a story with a couple people like that we didn't see eye to eye because one of them was a certain way, and she, you know, assumed that the other person was a certain way. And at one point, you know, they basically had to talk, and the one person was like, you don't even know me like that. You can't just assume that I'm going to think a certain way.
Yeah.
And get defensive over it and then treat me that way because you're just assuming.
Right.
And that's like all of America right now.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't have their beliefs like because they're in defiance of you.
Right.
They have their beliefs because we've all grown up in our own unique way with our certain surroundings and upbringings and circumstances, and it all that shapes and molds us into who we are.
Oh yeah.
So let's have the conversation and learn something from each other and why the other thinks the opposite way. Because at the end of the day, we all want and need the same thing. We all like crave love, and we need food and drink every day and shelter and to be warm, and we want to figure out
what's your saying, a warm body.
Get a warm body. We'll figure out what we're doing here, maybe figure out where we're going when it's done, but while we're here, be in awe of it and share that together, share in experiences, share in our time that we share together, and whatever culture that we're caught up in, whatever. Like, those are the things, like, if we're being honest, everybody wants those things, unless somebody is like, just from birth is just like hate, which plenty of people are, and they're never given.
But the issue with that is, from birth, they're not like that.
Yeah, when they're a baby, like you were saying, like
there is DNA and like genetic stuff that do lead a certain
path. A little white baby hugs a little black baby. They don't care.
Right.
They're just babies.
Yeah, they're just babies.
It's just pure innocence.
Yeah, there is like DNA and like some genetic stuff that do lead like a certain mental path. Yeah. But like the brainwashing thing of like, like racism or like a certain homophobia, or like go down that list, that comes from hearing and repeating. That's as simple as it is. It was heard somewhere, and then you repeat it, and what that does is it's that echo chamber pattern where all you're doing is saying, hearing, repeating, saying, hear, repeat. That's no different than brainwashing. That's all that is. Yeah. It's the echo chamber of what you're hearing over and over and over and over and over. And the human body and the human mind, my goodness, does a brilliant job, whether you realize it or not, at adapting to your surroundings, unless you fight it and fight yourself constantly. That's why I tell you the things that I tell you. You have to fight your mind. You have to challenge everything, because, just as an example, like a brief story, like when my brother came out of the closet, it was not a happy time for him. I went to his room, he was in the middle playing the GameCube. I turned his TV off and the GameCube off and was like, we're going to talk.
Baseball bat to the TV.
And, like that was going to help things. Like, we're going to talk. I'm going to straighten you out and I'm going to get you straight again. Don't worry. Right. That was my mentality, because I couldn't process. Like, all of a sudden it was this moment of, brother, we've been told all of our lives that's not good, and that now you're saying that that's who you are.
Yeah.
And the issue with that thinking in my head is this: obviously we were young, obviously I made some stupid decisions in that moment, but he was choosing something outside of the echo chamber, and I didn't understand how that was possible. That's how simple that is now to look back on.
Right.
And it took me years to process that. And what it came down to is this. I heard a podcast one time that said this. There was a guy on the podcast talking, and he said this. He said, I didn't know why I had an issue with the idea of being home,
had an issue with someone being...
What is the word? Not homophobic. If you like men. Well, what is
you're a homophobic if you don't like men.
Right. What's the word? If you like men. Homo what?
Sexual?
Yeah. Jeez. I don't know why that was out of my vocabulary at the moment. Sorry. You want to give that look back?
That one's all
camera? Give that look back.
That word's all over my vocabulary.
So he basically what he said was this: I didn't understand why I had an issue with someone being homosexual until my son came home and asked if it was okay to marry a guy. And he said he realized in that moment he actually had no issue with someone else being homosexual. He was in fear of his son being an homosexual. And when I heard that on the podcast, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, oh my gosh, I have a son that at that point was like 5, 6 years old. And it terrified me of what I was going to say if he came home and said, you know, I think I want to marry a boy instead of a girl. It terrified me because I had no idea what I was going to say.
Right.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it actually had nothing to do with my brother because honestly, my brother's life doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
Like nothing. 0% of it does.
Right.
You know, other than family gatherings or if he gets married, whatever. And it's like this weird thing where it's like all of a sudden where it's like, okay, so if I've chosen my brother's life doesn't affect me, do I want it to affect me? And then I'm like, I do want it to affect me in a positive way. So what does that mean? And then then I take a step back and say, oh my God, I've chosen to distance myself because all of a sudden my brother might bring another guy over and say, hey, this is my boyfriend, which I've already experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just this weird thing where like, oh, I don't agree with it, so I got to step back. And then I'm like, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. Because if I want to love my brother like I should, then I have to be there for him. I don't necessarily have to agree or like accept everything in the sense of like, oh yeah, I get it. I would also be gay, but I'm, you know, I picked a girl. Like I don't have to accept it in that way, but it's just like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter that you are. And then all of a sudden it's, okay, let's deal with this. Like, what if my son comes home and says this, you know? And then it's all of a sudden, oh, everything is kind of okay. And it doesn't have to be this weird, like, I heard this in an echo chamber, so that's what's awful about it. And that's what's evil and sinful about it. And then it's all of a sudden, wait a second, I can accept all of these people and just be okay with them. Is it uncomfortable because I had ideology shoved down my throat? Hell yeah. But guess what? Every day I work on it, and every day it's a little bit better. I could, you know, I was at a party recently, the wedding I asked you to do. I was at a party recently where there was a man that likes to cross-dress and take on a different persona, right? I won't go any more detail
of someone
than that.
Specific or just a different
Just
persona?
a different person. Yeah,
Okay.
that she then is. And I got to tell you, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. I wouldn't have been able to understand it. I wouldn't have been able to process it in the way that I could accept him or her.
Yeah.
And now I was standing right next to her and just talking to her. And all of a sudden, like, I know this sounds ridiculous. But like, I don't know if anybody's listening to this and you know, believes in Jesus or anything like that, but like, it just felt like all of a sudden it's like, you know, Jesus standing at the well talking to the whore that just came out and got done fucking someone. That's what happened, Bible people. You know, that's the story that was in the Bible, whether you want to sugarcoat it or not. And he looked at her as a human. As a human, not as a whore. He looked at her as a human, said, follow me. I got you. He didn't say, hey, whore, you're not supposed to be doing what you're doing. Go to church.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I'm standing there with this person and I'm just talking to her, and it kind of hits me. I'm just talking to another person. It doesn't matter how they dress. It doesn't matter what they do in bed. It doesn't matter what they choose to, blah, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And then it was so comfortable being in my own skin, letting someone else be in their own skin.
Yeah.
And that all of a sudden, it was just like a,
yeah.
And it was all of a sudden, it was like it was one of those times. I don't regret much in my life because I usually choose my actions and words very specifically, but like that type of a moment, especially that one, made me regret everything that I went through or did or said to my brother when he came out, because it wasn't accepting him at the moment. It was wanting to accept him for what I think he should be.
Right.
And that is like a terrible place to be, because if you believe in Jesus, if you believe in God, I haven't read the Quran, but like if you believe in that type of ideology, not once did Jesus accept for someone who they could be. Not once. He accepted them for who they were and then said, follow me, because I can make you a better version of yourself.
Right.
And that is the most like purest thing. That is the thought that I hold on to, because if I accept everybody for who they are, what else am I supposed to do?
The world's much simpler that way.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot easier on yourself too.
Yeah. It's not so straining to the point where you're like trying to manipulate everyone around you to be a certain thing.
Right. Because you'll never change them.
Right.
So the best you can do is just like understand them and accept them. And like you said, just people to each their own. They go their own way. They do their thing. You do your thing. Everyone should do their own thing as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else.
Right.
Do your thing. Do you.
The bottom line is we're anti-government.
And you should definitely watch It Follows. Totally. It's just to circle back.
I know I talked a really long time about that, but
there's a lot to
I went
unpack
down
there.
a really weird rabbit hole.
Jesus, we just went on a roller coaster down into the cavern and just like touched the walls and touched everything and reached our hands out and just slapped every subject.
Well, but the last time you asked it, we were at 40 minutes. Now we're over an hour later.
How much time is it total?
152. We're getting ready
Holy
to go 2
shit.
hours.
When you said over an hour, I was like, it feels like I would say something more than just because that makes it sound like an hour 5.
Right.
Yeah, hour. I was going to say this it was going to be the shortest podcast ever. It's probably turned into the longest.
Not quite yet. I know we've
I don't know what the
2
record
hours
is,
something for, but
yeah. Well, there was a lot to unpack there. I guess we've just been itching to do podcasts more.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a good place to wrap it
I don't know
up.
what we're going to title. I guess just keep it episode 16.
We're just going to do number 16.
Yeah. All right.
And I'm going to title it All of It.
All of it. All of it.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good place to wrap it up. If like always,
like and subscribe, hit that bell notification.
yeah, do all that stuff. But if you have any questions or like rebuttals or anything to anything we say, we would freaking love to talk about any comment you want to send out, or if you want to hop on the podcast with us. This is something that I would love to do. We could be known as the people that bring on, fans of the podcast or angry fans of the podcast. I would love
get somebody angry in here.
yeah. The whole idea behind Alchemy Point, that phrase, obviously, if some of you connected the dots with this, that phrase really comes from the point, alchemy was like pre-chemistry. That's where chemistry came from. Alchemy. So that was the first chemistry. And really what we want to try to do with this, along with like movie reviews and goofy podcasts and stuff like this, is the point where like alchemy happens is the point where like you could take gold, coal or like something like lead and turn it into gold. And what I mean by that is I want to have conversations with people that we don't necessarily agree with, but we can talk to and be friends with and just communicate like our sides of the story and come to some type of middle ground and say, hey, we don't agree on this, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends. Just like I don't like guys, but my brother does. But guess what? We're still brothers and we're still friends, and I still love the fuck out of him. And to me, that's what Alchemy Point is. It's the culmination of all this nonsense that we can turn into gold because, you know, for us, we did win the geographic lottery and we won America. We were born and raised here. And there are a lot of countries that could say the same things, but, you know, the best part about this place or like this platform is we can talk, we can disagree, we can still be friends.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree with everything.
Yep.
And that's what kind of alchemy is, I guess.
It's like you can't throw mercury and banana peels into a blender and make gold.
Right.
But you can throw words back and forth and have the conversation, which might spark different thought processes and ways of looking at things, different perspectives.
Yeah. Because I would say
you could live someone else's life through their telling of it or their situation or their circumstance or whatever they believe.
And I would say, I think you would probably agree with me in what I'm about to say, but I would love...
Don't end free speech.
No, well, yes, that too. But I would love for somebody to come on here and change my mind about things or enlighten me about things because I am not beyond learning. If I said something that tweaks you and you have actual factual knowledge about a subject that you don't agree with or I misstated or I misquoted, let me know.
Yeah.
I am not scared to learn.
If my future self came back in a time machine and I was like, hey, what do I learn by the time I'm 80? And he's just like, nothing. I would feel kind of disappointed in myself.
It would be terrible because I think, you know, I told you this before, but like, I think the moment you start dying or you die is when you stop being creative and you stop learning. Those are like my two like really strong beliefs.
Yeah. A life of quiet desperation.
Right.
Slow death.
Well, that was kind of a heavy ending, but...
So it follows... what score would we give that? Maybe 6 out of 10.
I haven't seen that yet, so... Well, next podcast, maybe The Fountain or Dogville. One of those two.
I think Dogville's kind of a long haul, just so you know.
What if we get that one out of the way first? So it doesn't taint The Fountain somehow. I don't know what that means, but
I don't give a fuck how we do it. I'll be here. Maybe.
Well,
at some point.
Everyone.
Thanks for listening. If you made it all the way through, congratulations.
If you didn't, we don't blame you.
Yeah, we hope you were doing something constructive with your time, like Minecraft or unlocking achievements.
Right.
Or they don't call them that anymore. Trophies.
What they do?
Xbox
what
stuff
is achievements.
Yeah, whatever you kids are doing.
Well,
these
like
days.
always, subscribe, ring the bell, do your thing, comment everywhere, in all places. But until then,
ring the bell. Ring that bell for notifications. Is this going on YouTube?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, then click the bell. I'll fucking slap you.
We'll do all the stuff, and you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the podcasts.
All that
well,
jazz.
everyone, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
How long till 2 hours? Oh, almost there.
You're in a shit.
Him next tonight.
You know, no, what's the second? But I've had it half on this. Oh,
You're up to your desk. You're today.
Hey, you had like 50 or something.